wanna be legendary, till I'm dead and buried deep within a cemetery. I will fight, never weary, I wanna be legendary. I'll be last place, that's alright. I don't work at a fast pace. I'm a steady horse creeping up straight past it. And once I pass you, no one's getting past me.
And here we have him, Ian Aitken. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. You well?
Very good.
Excellent. Nice.
Ian Aitken.
Nice to see you, mate. Lovely.
Coburg boy.
The Coburg,
like
northern
me.
Suburbs.
Yeah.
Northern suburbs. The best.
Boy.
I reckon the toughest footballers come from the northern suburbs. What do you reckon?
Oh, yeah. The old Diamond Valley Footy League used to be tough and rough, and I still play over 50s footy with the Diamond Valley boys.
Really?
So I've got a lot of blokes who from Laylord, Eltham, etc., etc.
Do you drag any of your old premiership teammates like David Glasgow and Alex Marcoux around with you?
No, they're too smart to still be playing.
Well, they're up in that way.
It's pretty tough on the body, mate.
What position are you playing?
Wherever I want. They just say, you do whatever you want.
Premiership player, do whatever you want.
I'd be a really good member of that team. Sitting on the bench for 4 quarters.
Or right back in the rooms.
Yeah, right back. Or left back. Left back on the bench. Yeah, that's it. That was the old thing. Yeah, so...
It's great to be here in your lovely home, and thanks for inviting us in. And we're going to have a bit of a chat about your fabulous career at Carlton. And it started back before your first game, quite a few games before, because you played reserves football for a fair while,
and under 19s.
And under 19s. So
played,
take us back to the start. How did you come about playing footy as a kid? Did you start at an early age?
Yeah, no, I only started under 14s. So my parents, said we don't want you to.
That's relatively late for a kid, because they normally start around 9, 10, 11,
especially these days. The parents are trying to get him there when they're 7 and have to play club footy.
That's right.
But my parents, said we don't want you to get worn out or hate the game. So it was probably a good thing. So I started under 14s at. I went down to Coburg Amateurs with my dad played.
Yes.
And then they didn't pick me in the side. So I thought, stuff this. Then I went to North Brunswick, Donald Street there.
Yes.
And there was, 6 teams in the comp. We had 3 coaches in the 1 year. It wasn't a great comp. So then a mate of mine from Coburg High was playing at Strathmore. So I went across to Strathmore, used to ride the old Repco bike down the Gaffney Street Hill.
Yes. I was there yesterday, the Gaffney Street Hill.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, I'm in Strathmore, so
So it was all right to go to training down the hill, and then after training you'd have to ride up the hill or walk if you couldn't make it. So I played at Strathmore for a couple of years, but when I was at North Brunswick, one of the Carlton recruiters had noticed me.
Yes.
So then I made a few...
That's the Essendon District Football League you were playing in?
Yes. Essendon District, great club, Strathmore. Made a few EDFL sides, all that sort of stuff. So then I got an invite to the under-19s and, went there.
How did that feel? I mean, did Carlton literally approach you to come and play under-19s football?
Yeah, back then.
Do you remember who it was that approached you?
I can't remember his name. He was a recruiter from the Brunswick area sort of stuff. And went down to Carlton. Trevor Keogh was my first coach.
Yes.
And I ended up playing golf with him a few times recently in the old AFL Past Players Day, which is good fun. So Trevor Keogh's still going well.
He would have only just retired himself, maybe a couple of years earlier.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so that was good. Played there. I was still in school, year 12.
Yep.
And then.
Where did you go to school? Because I went to school at St Paul's in Coburg as a primary school, and then went to St Joseph's in Pascoe Vale.
So I was at Coburg High.
You're Coburg High.
So there's Coburg Junior School on one side, Prep 1, 2. Across the road, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is next to Pentridge. Then back across the road to Coburg High. So I went there.
Well, my school was right next door to Pentridge. We could literally throw the ladder over.
So you were like just a brick away from bloody Chopper Reed and all that.
Well, during that period, someone broke out of jail and ran through the school grounds.
Unbelievable.
Ran through the school grounds. It was on the news that night. All that sort of
I had
stuff.
a couple of those.
So, I lived close, Coburg footy ground, so I'd walk down the road, round the footy ground to school every day, so used to go watch Coburg play VFA footy back in the day and just go down there.
And there were a few Carlton people involved at Coburg back in the day then too, like Cole Kinnear and Phil Cleary, who used to play for Carlton, funnily enough. He never made senior football, but he played a few reserves games.
So, to go down there, watch Coburg, Preston, Coburg, Geelong West, Coburg, Port Melbourne, they punch the hell out of each other,
I'm telling you, tough, man.
Some of the VFA footy was crazy. So then the game would finish, I'd have shots for goal until it got dark and then walk home, as you do. So, And also grew up at school with all the Italians, Greeks, etc. at Coburg High. A lot of them wanted to play soccer, but there was a bunch that played footy and, we'd play in the park. It was a public park next to the school. So we'd play footy in the park at lunchtime before school. I'd play footy in the street, 3-on-3. Don't roll your
contests.
Don't roll your ankle on a gutter, all that sort of stuff.
That's right. I remember
if you fell over, you got half your knee got scraped off.
So just watch out for cars occasionally.
Yeah,
but
that was good those days. The cars would stop for you. Wouldn't they? Not now.
And it was all just incidental football practice. You were doing and learning the game and the craft. Then in under-19s, the second year, I think I won the best and fairest.
Yes.
And I actually played as a ruck rover back then.
Right.
And that was under Southby and Mackay.
Yep.
So, and they weren't long retired and they were joining in training and Sefta's frothing from the mouth and training and being competitive. Swanee wanted to kick the kick so he could take speckies on us.
That's right.
That sort of stuff. That was there. And then the next year I went to... played reserves in '86.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lucky enough to play in a premiership, which was great. And back then, the reserves comp was, really high standard because they kept all the old players, Buckleys, Ashmans, Sheldons, etc. So they're all playing
with some stars.
So instead of
and a young up and coming Stephen Silvani too at the time. Too.
Yes. Well, we had we played in the scholarship team for Carlton under 17s.
Okay.
He was centre half forward, I was centre half back.
Right.
And we used to play Melbourne every year. So Slug Jordan would coach the other team.
Yes.
And we'd play them and then we'd have some guys from the Bendigo region in the side because that was the Carlton recruiting area back then. Where a lot of stars came from. So we played that, and then we sort of, had our 21st birthday together, Sauce and I.
There's a couple of highlights.
Fantastic.
And Sauce, there's a few highlights.
Actually, him and Sauce would be probably only about 3 weeks apart, I reckon.
About
maybe 2 weeks apart.
Yeah, 2 or 3. Exactly. So, and in the Carlton Understand, we had our 21st.
Is that right?
Oh yes, nice.
Yeah, the old there next to the old bubble pool out the back.
Oh, the bubble one.
I remember that.
So that was great. Then in '86, when we won the flag, I went away to. They were going to Japan to play the Aussie Bowl against Hawthorn.
Yeah.
I went with a mate up to Queensland on a road trip, and then got a call. I've got a beer in my hand. I got a call saying someone's pulled out. We want you to come to Japan. So I put the beer down, start doing push-ups and sit-ups. Drive back to Melbourne and go.
What, straight away?
Drive back to Melbourne and then on the plane to Japan. So which was a great experience. We played on a baseball field.
Right.
So AstroTurf, and the AstroTurf back then wasn't as good as it is now.
Right.
So you used to have the
arm pads,
arm and knee pads, and we all had those.
Down, mate,
and there was 16 aside. The Japanese people, loved the throw in from the boundary or the goal umpire, all that sort of stuff.
The weird stuff.
All that weird stuff. So we played in that game, and Dunstall, the ground was small. It was almost a kick and a bit from one end to the other. So Ian Muller started on him, and I think he had 4 kicked on him in the first 15, 20 minutes. And then Wolsey put me onto him, and I think I had 3 kicked on me for the rest of the game. So supposedly
not too bad.
That was reasonably good. And So from there, next year, that would have helped me establish myself. I think it was round 2 I got picked for my first game in 87.
Round 2 in 87, yeah.
So you played the first one in the reserves?
Yes, from memory, yes.
And do you remember who you played in your first game in 1987?
I think it was, I keep trying to remember, I think it was either Collingwood or Bulldogs.
Collingwood
at Waverley.
Yeah.
And I reckon I kicked the goal. Yeah, you did. I got a handball over the top, which was nice.
That's from Sauce?
Was it? I don't know.
I reckon it was. I reckon I saw the highlights. I reckon there was a handball over the top and you ran into... I think you were pretty excited about it too.
Yeah.
First goal, mate.
Yeah, exactly. And I hardly ever played forward.
Yeah, that's right.
It's pretty exciting to kick a goal in your first game.
Oh, yeah. And I'm not sure what I was doing down there, but maybe after that game they realised I wasn't a forward. So I went back.
Well, funnily enough, I mean, we don't have to. We can jump around here a little bit, but you did get thrown forward a few times, and you played quite well when you did that.
Occasionally, yeah. I remember a game at St Kilda.
Yeah.
I went forward. I started forward.
I was going to ask you about that.
At full forward, right?
Yes, that's right.
And I think I ended up kicking 2, and as the game went on, they moved me back because Lockett kicked 10.
That's the one. That's what I was going to ask you about.
So
I think you'll find that was...
That's the one where he kicked 10 on Sauce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think you'll find that was early in 1989.
The whole time on Sauce.
I think it was round 2 of 1989.
There you go. And I went back. After a while on Stewie Lowe.
Yeah.
But I was going nowhere near Lockett that day. I'll leave Sauce on him, mate.
But do you know what? The only 2 games that you kicked more than 1 goal, which was 2 goals on each occasion, was against St Kilda.
There you go.
Do you remember the other one?
Was at Princess Park?
Yeah. In 92.
And I reckon... and
that was a big day for Lockett as well.
Was it?
He kicked something like 6 or 7 in the first half.
And I reckon my brother-in-law...
On a very young Michael Sexton.
Oh, did he?
And then Dorotich went on to him in the second half, and Lockett did not get a touch. We'll have some highlights.
Is that when Lockett knocked out Hoggy?
Yes, right at the end.
Right at the end, man. He got upset, gave him a nice...
Yeah, right on the boundary line. I mean, the siren went into the game. St Kilda's lost. He's seen a Carlton player, happened to be Matthew Hogg, coming right in front of you, thought, stuff this. I'm going to knock him out.
So I reckon that game, my brother-in-law, Luke O'Sullivan, Rhino, might have kicked 3 or something.
Yes, no, he did. He kicked some sensational goals, Luke O'Sullivan, that day.
That was it was good.
I think you find he might have even kicked 4.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. So
he kicked some crackerjack goals.
Yeah, he was explosive. Yeah,
he was explosive. And so, tell us, how were you, Luke's brother-in-law?
Well, we had training at pre-season training at St Kevin's.
Right. How long ago is this?
At the school, that would have been in
late 80s.
Late 80s, 89, 90.
Yeah.
And then I went. He said, "Come back to my place for eggs and bacon," you know.
Right.
And then I realised he had 9 brothers and 8 brothers, so 9 boys and three girls.
Yes.
So I went in there, sit in the kitchen. They had 2 ovens, 2 of everything because they had so many kids. It was like a school camp.
Yeah.
And then they had this spiral staircase to a lot of the bedrooms upstairs. And then his younger sister walked down the staircase, and I said,
"That's it."
I said, I'm here for more than bacon and eggs.
And you said, I think I could see myself marrying that young girl.
Yeah, well, she had a boyfriend, I had a girlfriend, but those sort of both things.
There you go, isn't it?
Both things finished after a while.
You can't stop chemistry.
And I kept pursuing her, and
that's great.
She was silly enough to marry me. Yeah.
Well done. And now you've got 3 beautiful kids.
Yes, 2 girls and a boy, so 31, 28, and my son's 20.
It's hard to imagine that
turn 24.
You've got a child in their 30s.
Yeah, I know.
And 2 others in their 20s. Yeah. None of them have gone on to become parents yet?
No.
Are they still here with you?
One's back here. Yeah, the other one's living in Richmond with some mates, and my other daughter's in Darwin. She's a nurse, she was at the Darwin Hospital. Now she's working for Services Australia.
So you married one of Luke O'Sullivan's sisters.
Exactly.
There you go.
And I was working for his brothers.
Right.
In an IT business.
Right.
And the recession hit about that time, and I thought if I don't marry one into the family, I could lose my job. So I thought,
it's a good career move.
There you go, Libby. The only reason he married you was because he didn't want to lose his job.
Bit of job security, what do you reckon?
Surely there was a bit more to it than that.
So then I worked for the family for 15 years or so in IT, when I finished after Carlton, went to St Kilda for a year.
Yes.
And then, due to injuries at 26, my career was over.
Yeah, very early.
Yeah, I'd had 10 operations, all that sort of stuff. And Stan Ells, in his wisdom, said, after 6 games at St Kilda and probably 3 injuries that year, I'd come back, get in the seniors, get injured, have some weeks off, that sort of stuff. So
his patience level wasn't too high with injured players.
So then I started coaching local levels, straight away at Phillip Island.
Yep.
And then Bowen Heads and I played at Coburg for a year, then Strathmore, coached 2 years there.
Yep.
Finished up at 31 as a playing coach.
Yep.
Won a flag, which was awesome against the arch rival Keilor.
How good's that?
And coached ever since. I've coached now, so I've probably coached over 1,000 games.
I was just going to say, your coaching career extends way beyond your playing days.
Yeah, and sometimes I coach 2 or 3 teams a year, which people can't believe. But I've coached under-19 team at 9:20 in the morning, have a break for the reserves, and then coach the senior team, or coach on a Saturday, and then junior teams on a Sunday. So sometimes I'm coaching 2 or 3 games a weekend.
Wow.
I'm going to ask you some questions maybe about the coaching of today, you know what I mean? See how that's going. But before that...
Yeah, I was just going to say, go on.
Well, we missed the whole 87.
No. We're going to go back to that. As I said, we've jumped around a little bit.
Yeah, we jumped around. But
we'll take it nice and slow, okay? So 86, you've won the reserves premiership against Footscray. How did you play that day, by the way?
I think I was reasonably good. Played on Groenewegen.
Oh, yes, Robert Groenewegen. He was one of the most interesting surnames in football
He
back
was,
then.
the wagon.
He's actually not a bad player.
Yeah, and then he actually ended up being that Matt Hanbury was playing in that side for the Bulldogs.
Yes.
And he ended up becoming my brother-in-law because he married my wife's other sister, Geraldine.
Yeah.
What, another O'Sullivan?
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Wow.
And so Geraldine became a Hanbury, and then they had Dan Hanbury, who's played for the Swans.
There you go, everyone.
Saints.
How's this for some trivia questions for your football nights?
Yeah, so
Dan Hanbury is...
my nephew.
Your nephew?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I coached,
he had a great career, didn't he?
I coached him at Kew Rovers for a couple of years.
Yes.
And we had some success there, won a couple of flags, and then
You won more than 2.
Yeah, juniors, but with him
3.
I won 2.
With him too, yeah.
And then I went to, then he went to Xavier College.
Yes.
And then he goes, Beezer, which is my nickname, come across and help us at Xavier because, and so I went across and became director of footy. But I coached the year 10 side, which he was in, which went through undefeated that year, which was good.
Nice.
And then helped out when he was in the senior years and all that sort of stuff. So, so there you go.
He was a great player, and he played in the premiership with the Sydney Swans.
2012.
Yeah, and that was a fantastic
best first year player.
Oh yeah,
best first year player.
Well, I think he can relate to you in that sense because you got best first year player too, didn't you?
I did in '87, which was good.
Yeah, you did.
In a premiership year, best first year player, first game, round 2, played 16 games for that year.
87. When you went into 87, I know you're just a junior going into it, but did the team have like some thing that they were going to win it that year, or
not in the early? Well, I don't know. I was sort of oblivious to it because I was young, right? But I mean, obviously they'd got beaten by Hawthorn in '86,
and that hurt.
And Wolsey's a very driven person, and he wouldn't have been happy with that, of course, and would have been still steely-eyed about what we need to do. But that year, if you remember, 2 things happened. Okay, we were in a team meeting at training on a Thursday night after training, and when the side was picked, and you went into look at the opposition, and then we left Princes Park, and next thing you hear on the radio, there's a car crash on Queen's Parade with Paul Meldrum was following Peter Motley.
Correct.
And saw Peter Motley's car accident. And Motley was...
the car hit Motley's car too.
Yes, yeah. And so, if he wasn't as fit as he was, because he was freak and blah, blah, then he might have died, but he got through all the injuries and, still shows his face at the footy club and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But Peter Motley was as good as Bradley and Kernahan, those two. They were all on par.
You would have played with him too in the back.
I did,
line,
and he was unbelievable.
And he was just finding his feet there. He started looking really good off the back line there.
He was an athletic freak. just a great football, good spring in his legs, that sort of stuff. So
well, him and Bradley, they were best mates too.
Yeah, yes.
And they were practically the same, man. They were just freaks at fitness.
Yeah. So that sort of, I suppose, helped gel the group in a sense. And then the other one was Des English Cancer.
Yes.
So that also, and there was a lot going through the final series in recognition of them.
Yeah.
So that sort of
it was even recognised at after the grand final in the rooms and all that. Yeah.
So there was a bit of a resolve amongst the team. Come on, let's win this. And
let's do it for Desi and Motts. Sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we saw Peter Dean get up on the microphone and acknowledge that, didn't we?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he acknowledged that.
So, so you started in '87. So they've just come off a losing grand final. You played in the winning reserves one, so you hadn't tasted grand final loss yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Played your first game. You have many memories of running out for your first game, running through the banner in front of how many? Probably 70,000, 80,000 at Waverley.
No, I don't actually. As I said, I couldn't remember if it was Collingwood or Bulldogs. I sort of have probably stronger memories against the Bulldogs at Western Oval because I lined up on Rick Kennedy.
Yes.
And I thought, when's he going to belt me?
Were you playing forward or back?
I think I was forward again for some reason.
Right.
But then
Rick used to play full back for Footscray.
I reckon after 2 games they thought, nah, this bloke needs to go back.
I went to that game. Now hang on. I went to that game at the Western Oval in 1987. I remember it well.
There you go.
It was the first time I ever went there for a game of football.
Right.
And it was a really hot, blustery day. And we just demolished them.
Did we? There we go.
And Peter Motley himself, I'll never forget, kicked the goal from about 65 metres out, running down the wing. And I mean, it was to the end to the right-hand screen, right-hand side of your TV screen, with a blowing northerly wind. So the wind was right behind him, but the ball just sailed through post high almost, and that's when I just went, "Wow, what is this guy capable of?"
Yeah, he was a big kick too. He had
beautiful,
power, a lot of power.
Kick of the football.
Yeah, a lot of power.
And Bradley, I think, got about 75 possessions that day.
Yeah.
I remember him coming off the ground because you were allowed to run onto the ground after the game back in those days.
Yeah.
And I just remember him heaving, absolutely exhausted. I reckon he ran about 20 kilometres.
He's a running machine. Yeah.
Anyway, memories of that game.
Anyway, we'll talk about Ian.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So you played on Rick Kennedy?
For a while. I can't remember whether I moved or didn't move.
Now, because you broke your jaw. Well, you broke it a couple of times, but you broke your jaw during
the season.
During the season too, didn't you?
Yes. So.
You didn't break it, someone else did.
But your jaw was broken.
Yeah, people get it wrong, right? Some people don't know I broke it during the year.
Yes.
And then they think I broke it in London when Clarkson hit me.
Yeah.
But, so I was playing on Brereton.
Yeah.
Right? So Dorotich was playing on Brereton.
Yes.
And we're at Waverley.
Yes.
And this is maybe around, 13, 14, I can't remember. And Dora was getting beaten. And so he moved me on to Brereton. Wolsey moved me on the Brereton, and then I'm young and just had no fear, no nothing, that sort of stuff. So I'm holding Brereton's jumper, and he threw his arm back to get away from me, and he got me right there. And as I had wisdom teeth still, and if you got wisdom teeth and bone, the wisdom teeth win and the bone cracks.
Oh yeah.
So then I dazed out for a sec. And then I took the mark because Brendan moved forward, and I took the mark, and then I kept playing, and then my jaw, didn't feel like it was closing properly, and then 3/4 time got assessed, whatever assessment they did back then, and then went off, came back, played the game out, went in the rooms. The doctor confirmed I had a broken jaw, so Wolsey gets us in there at the team meeting, and he walks around talking about the game. I can't remember if we won or lost, right?
Yeah.
And he's talking to people, and then because he was unbelievable with his sprays, and he said, "See this young bloke here? He's got a broken jaw, and you know whose fault it is? Yours, Dora, because you were shit house. I had to move Beezer onto him." He goes, you play like you look like Tarzan, but you play like Jane. Right? That's your fault. So he used to give the biggest praise of all time, mate.
That's funny.
That's funny. So then I had my jaw wide. For
your fault.
Yeah, for 3 weeks. I had to only have soup through a straw.
Oh,
and then lost about 7 kilos, came back. I can't remember if I played one reserves game or straight back in, and then in the side, and then
I reckon it was pretty much. I don't can't
You got
remember.
back pretty soon. I reckon it was only 4 weeks, maybe.
4 weeks, you were back,
something like that, and you were back.
Yeah.
So you felt like you were right to come back. It wasn't. It wasn't premature. No.
And you played well.
Oh my word! You had a great year. I mean, for a first-year player, you had a sensational year, and you really did hold your own in that back line, especially. I mean, you took a lot of intercept marks, and coming across the packs, and you must have been confident in your ability back then.
Yeah, you just don't think about, if Wolsey said,
throw yourself in front of a train.
Yeah, that's right. Run through that brick wall. You go, how many times? That sort of stuff.
Yeah,
you just did what you did. I played on talls. I played on smalls.
Yeah.
Richard Osborne, Peter Curran, Dunstall, whatever. You played different sides. I played on big or small.
Yeah.
And I believed I was going to.
Well, that was the beauty of your game, is that you could play on talls and smalls and mediums, and really you were quite versatile.
And back then you had 20 players, so 2 interchange, and a lot of the time they didn't interchange until you were playing poorly or someone got injured. There was no rotation.
There was no rotation.
So you could sit on the bench for 3/4 if the side's going well and no one got injured.
Yes, that's right.
Then you were able to work over your opponent.
Yep.
So you played on one opponent most of the time. And you're able to, run him into the ground. When we won the ball, you'd leave him, and he'd have to chase you. And then, if I was fitter than the opposition, then they'd get fatigued and that sort of stuff. And so you could work them over, that sort of stuff. So
now they just keep rotating.
They're rotating. You're playing on 10 different people throughout a game and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
No, very good.
So did you play in the last game of the season against North Melbourne?
Yeah.
How good was that? The side?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Sticks kicking the goal. One of his helicopters, probably.
I think it
wasn't. It was a dart. No, it was an absolute dart right through the middle, and on an angle too. A lot of players would miss that shot.
No, that was an important goal, man. Because
if you miss that shot, if you miss that shot, we lose the game. The whole complexion of the ladder changes.
I understand.
We wouldn't have got top spot. We wouldn't have got the week's rest. In the end, we got a week's rest, and we played Hawthorn in the second semi.
I reckon that kick could have gone to that last incident over in England, maybe, because they weren't too happy. But so that last game put you on top. And what was then you played Hawthorn straight on?
No. Well, we had a week's rest.
Yeah.
Then we played Hawthorn in the second semi, and that was at Waverley. And by half time, it was looking quite sick.
Yeah.
We were about. I think they'd kicked 8 goals 5 to something like 2 goals 12. And we were about 5 goals down at half time, and everyone was going, oh, geez, look at how badly Carlton are going. Can't even kick straight. But all of a sudden, came out in the third quarter, and we turned it all around and ended up winning the game by about, 15 points.
There you go. You remember better than I do.
Oh, yeah. I'll never forget. That second half, we played brilliant football.
I don't know if it's good or it's sad that you know so many.
They were the years that I remember most. They were the glory days.
No, they were the glory years. They were a great.
But you played obviously in that game, and how does that feel, knowing you're going to be playing in a grand final 2 weeks later, another week's rest, and then the grand final?
Oh, it was awesome.
Get over all your little injuries.
And that's feeling good, training with real intent, and knowing that you didn't have to possibly get a suspension or a injury in the.
Poor old Bernie Evans got suspended in the second semi.
Shocking. I do, mate. Yeah.
Do you know? That's an interesting question. So you're playing in that last game. I don't know how far you were ahead against Hawthorn in that last game, not the grand final.
I said we won by 15 points.
Oh, so it wasn't far. But
we went over the top of them, and just in the end we got.
Is there a period there just before, and then you're going to be in the grand final, that you kind of start looking after yourself?
No.
Don't think about
not a game when it's 15 points margin. You don't think about it.
It was close all the way up until literally the time-on period. I think there was a goal we scored. I
wonder if players do
that got us 15 points in front. I think at that stage,
protecting yourself, knowing
if you start doing that, you're going to get
hurt.
Probably get hurt. You've got to go in with the same ferocity.
100%.
But then we had the week off, and then I think we went up to some exclusive spot in Dandenongs. Had a night sleepover, and then they came and spoke to us about. Alan Bond, I think it was, or someone talked about minute by minute. You know, that was our theme going into the grand final day. Just take 1 minute at a time.
Is that
Don't worry
because
about
of
anything
the
going forward.
Is that because of the America's Cup?
Maybe, I got no idea.
I
But
like that.
yeah, so minute by minute, yeah. So, you know, just worry about
that
the next.
help?
Oh, absolutely. Really
Yeah.
focused you.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So then we went and watched the game at Waverley between Melbourne and Hawthorn.
Yeah, the Jim Steins
And
incident.
but before that, Chris Mew got whacked and was spewing up, so we called him Chris Spew. And obviously, you're watching the game and you hope whoever wins, which you didn't know till near the end, that they might incur a few injuries. So to some of their better players. So
it was a tough game between the two.
Yes,
because whoever won, they were going to have had the stuffing taken out of them a bit by playing that game.
And did Dunstall play that game? Or was he already out?
I'm not sure. I can't remember.
He didn't end up playing in the grand final.
I think he might have played that game, but he had a hamstring injury and couldn't play the grand final.
Yeah.
So.
And then Jim Steins ran through the mark.
Jim Steins ran through the mark.
Back then it was
cost him 15
metre penalty. And
Gary Buckenara kicked the goal.
Buckenara never was
still a tough kick, but
he was a very skilled player. He was a very good kick for goal.
He probably still would have kicked the goal even from 50 metres, but it made it a lot easier getting that extra 15.
And so it was good to know that they'd both gone so hard at each other and fought each other and that sort of stuff. And if Melbourne had won, it would have been interesting to see how we went against them. But if you remember,
they had the momentum and the public sentiment. Because they hadn't been in the finals for 23 years.
And I'm sure you remember how hot it was grand final day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was 30 degrees or whatever. And Tuck had, worn his
that's short sleeve.
We said the same thing.
You know you got Hawthorn's measure when Tucky wears the short sleeve.
So they were a bit beaten up and that sort of stuff. And then you had.
So the heat suited us.
The heat suited us. The fact that they'd played the week before.
Yeah. Wolsey done a few moves.
Exactly. And then Jono was like,
When did you find out?
Jono's a freak in the finals.
And you and Dora had played on Brereton in the previous match when you talked about getting your jaw broken. Neither one of you played on Brereton in that grand final. You ended up putting Reece Jones on. When did you find out about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you. Probably team meeting, but you really focused on Peter Curran and Russell Morris. So they were the two matchups for me.
Yeah.
And we were about the same height, same sort of skill set, sort of thing. It was good fun.
Good memories of the '87 grand final.
Yeah, well, because you're young again, you just go off and play and think, I'll do my job, and then understanding that, probably with 10 minutes to go, you're going to win. The celebrations were just...
How's that feeling, like 10 minutes to go? We've spoken to the 95 premiership players, and they were except for Peter Dean. Apparently, he doesn't
he doesn't celebrate
till the final.
Yeah, well, it's a bit the same, I mean, if you're probably 10 goals up, you might, but also being young, you're just focused and go, well I got
minute by minute.
Yeah, I still want to beat my opponent. Like if he kicks a goal on me, this sort of stuff, or if he sets up a goal. So you want to be the best you can for as long as you can.
Yep.
And then then it's done. Because you're young, like I just thought, what's going to change next year? We're going to have the same personnel. Why won't we win it next year? And but as we know in sport, it only takes
change.
And especially a team sport where you've got so many people.
That's right.
So many moving parts.
Other people, other teams may improve 5%. You might go down 3%. Someone could get a long-term injury, and so things change pretty quickly.
They do,
and they did.
But as you get older, then you would savour a grand final victory even more. So
it's important to really, celebrate that moment, isn't it? Because too many people worry about the next one and back to back and all that before they really properly celebrate the one they've just won.
We've spoken to a lot of the young, like premiership players, and they've all said the same thing. They've all said, there's going to be another 10 premierships coming, and then they realise there's some of them
9 years later, they've been retired.
That's right.
Yeah.
And didn't play another one. So
you're kind of like...
Now, you talked about Wolsey having that resolve, and the team itself was committed to winning for Desi and Motts and also for yourselves because you'd lost the year before. So was that a sense of relief? Was it just joy? Was it ecstasy? How did you feel after the game?
For me, it was just obviously joy and excitement. But then, again, I didn't. You're young and you just sort of focused on what you're doing and the fact that but until many years later, you don't go far out. I was so lucky to be part of that.
Yeah.
You're just in the moment going, well, one, how did I get to play AFL or VFL footy? You know?
That's a first.
Well, you were only, 20 years of age at the time?
So I was 19 when I got my first game.
Yep.
Birthday in May, 20 in the grand final.
That's right.
All of a sudden, you just go on this trajectory and you go, wow, you know, how did I get my first game? How did I, stay in the side? How did I then...
Was there ever any pressure on your position?
I don't think so.
Did you feel, no, I'm set here, I reckon I've got my posse?
Again, I just thought I'd go out and play, and obviously I was playing well enough, and I didn't even have a thought of, am I worried about someone taking my spot?
Yep.
Whereas then you had older guys, you know, Meldrum and this person and that. You speak to people years later going, I just couldn't get it back in the side, you know? So
you were just focused on what was ahead of you. You weren't looking in the rear vision.
That's right, exactly. You know?
And look, one thing we do know is that Robert Walls had a lot of confidence in you. He, in fact, backed a lot of young players that year and left a lot of the seasoned premiership players of yesteryear out, like the Rod Ashmans and the Jimmy Buckleys, out of the side, Wayne Harms. And he backed guys like you, Mick Kennedy. He was another player who played in the back pocket. Shane Robertson on the wing.
Warren McKenzie
up forward. I mean, you four were the sort of, I guess, the new boys on the block, the so-called no-names that became quite famous for playing in that premiership.
And of course, they left Sauce out of 86 grand final and played in the reserves with me.
He kicked a few in the reserves.
Yeah, he did.
So Sauce played in the 87 grand final. That was his first.
So that was his first grand final
in the seniors. Yep. So it was a good young team also with a relatively young captain too. How did you find playing under Stephen Kernahan? He was a captain at only 23 years of age.
You probably took it for granted until you finished your career and just saw, you know, he wasn't in your face captain, but he led by example.
Yeah.
And he set pretty good standards. You know, I mean, he liked the beer, of course, but but he also just set standards of, you know, the way you behave around the club, the way you train, that sort of stuff. So, you know, so no, he was a great leader, of course.
Fantastic.
We loved him. No, but as a supporter, you see sticks run out, you know, in front of everyone. You could just see demanded like respect, didn't he?
Did you walk a bit taller around the ball like him?
No, he was great because he was a leader. You knew he'd probably stand up in those tough moments, and playing centre half forward's probably the hardest position on the ground. So you know, if you've got a capable centre half forward, you're going okay.
Yeah, long way. And it was Wolsey. How was he in training? Like, was he a tough?
Oh, it's hard.
Really
you know,
hard.
If you lost, you know, on a Tuesday night, you might do, you know.
Do you know who Wolsey's a disciple of?
Who's that?
Ron Barassi.
Yeah.
So, I reckon, he's a fire and brimstone type.
I reckon he was probably even harder than him. He had a very spiteful side. You know, you do handball square, and you know, I won't explain what it was, but then people come off the track with blood and this sort of stuff. And you know, one night we lost. It might have been 88 or 89. He put the ball in the middle, and two blokes for two metres away, and you had to get the ball. First one to get it and grab the ball. And if you didn't turn properly, or if one didn't go hard enough, you know, he'd let you know. So you know,
geez, that's like Russian roulette with a football instead of a gun.
And some of his penalties, you know, like Harmsy turned up late to a Sunday training session because we always played Saturday then. So you'd always do a recovery on a Sunday at Princess Park. Harmsy turned up late, and he made him run, you know, probably because he was hungover, and he had to do 30 laps after training, that sort of stuff. And you know, he'd stand in Brisbane he did it, and he did it with us. You had to stand in a circle and put your arms out.
You've explained that.
And two people be in the middle, having a one-on-one contest, and they'd get the ball out, then you'd throw it back in, get it out.
And you couldn't put your arms
down. He'd turn his back and everyone would be doing it. And then you go up like this. So, you know, he was, he drove very high standards.
It worked in 87, but did it work? You think it was a good
way of him eventually?
Well, no, maybe eventually, yes. Right? But for me, I didn't question one thing. You know, he was my first senior coach. As I said, jump over that wall and go how many times I run through the wall.
You know, it's interesting you say this.
Whereas older people might have a different, different. But then they believed in it because they wanted a flag and they wanted redemption after '86. Yeah. So if you start to lose a few players, that's when you got issues.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, in Japan we were in there and he something happened in the hotel and the police came, then the army came, and then he wanted the truth out of certain players.
The army came. God, what the hell went on there?
About Japan,
the Japanese army.
About what happened, and he goes, look, if you tell me, I'll back you, blah blah. But if you don't, and so people didn't tell him, and then he found out the truth, and mate, he lost it, and
so he warned you if you tell me the truth.
That's right, yeah. So he was hard, and as I said, some of the sprays he gave were this and that, and so later on, I think at Carlton when. After success, 87, then 88 was still pretty well, 89 reasonable, and then after that, sort of, I think
89. That's when it all went pear-shaped.
And then Kappa kicked the goal at Princes Park.
That's it
for the Brisbane Bears to win, and then he got sacked.
Him his job. Yeah. But did you even feel? We're jumping ahead to 89 there, but. I think that was about round 8 or 9, and we'd only won one out of the first 8 or 9 games.
Lost like 8 or 9 games.
It was clear that he'd lost the players, and that's one of the reasons, in fact, the main reason why he ended up getting the sack. And he himself admits, I knew I'd lost the players. So, did you sense that too at the time? Like everyone's talking like, stuff him. And
well, I was in and out of the firsts and seconds at that stage. Right. I had a few injuries and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I can't say that. I held him in the same regard as I did in 87, 88 sort of thing.
Yeah. So, well, because 88 was another very good year for us. I mean, we still did extremely well, and we finished in the top 3. We played a qualifying final against Collingwood where we won. In fact, it was the last time we played Collingwood in any final. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
It's 35 years ago now.
Wow.
Until this year. Until we're going to beat them this year.
And then I think Peter Sutton...
Wouldn't that be good?
I think one of the unlucky...
By one point.
I love it.
With controversy.
I love it. With controversy. I love it. With controversy. Like a goal decision. That's what I
like. The Melbourne one. Adelaide. Imagine that.
I love it,
They'd pull the MCG down.
I love it. More pain, the better.
Yeah. So we won that qualifying final, but then we went out in 2 consecutive finals after that. We lost to Hawthorn in the second semi. They went straight into the 88 grand final, and then we played Melbourne in a prelim, and they beat us unexpectedly at Waverley. Were you in that game?
Yes. I was playing, back then I was playing on people like Jim Steins and Straub O'Dwyer, the resting ruckman in the forward pocket, and then sometimes Sean White, the Irishman as well.
Yes.
Well, that was their redemption from the heartbreaking prelim final loss the previous year. So they beat us in a prelim the following year and finally made it into their grand final.
And then they lost by a record margin.
And then they lost.
About 88 points or something?
96.
Was it?
At the time it was a record
16
margin.
goals.
Yeah, that was huge.
But after that prelim loss, okay, so we've missed out on making the grand final.
You find pleasure in that, did you? Like you lost by a record margin. I love it.
I didn't like Melbourne.
Didn't you? Well, that would have been our 3rd consecutive grand final had we beaten them. Because we made it in 86 and lost. 87 we won. 88 failed to make the grand final. So did you sense at that stage like maybe things are...
No, I was really just worried about me trying to get more senior games and get myself right.
You're still young,
so no one could foresee the severe drop in the start of 89.
No, not that I know of. Whether some of the older players could, I don't know, but certainly not me.
You were still playing pretty good football though through 80. Oh, not only 87 but 88. You still played a good 15 games or something.
87,
like that.
88, 89. I think I played 16 in my first year. Maybe 14, 15 in the next 2 years. And then Wolsey went, Jezza came along,
How was Jezza?
Oh, he was a different cat, mate, seriously. He walked out the first training session where the assistant coaches were taking us. He walks out, blow the whistle, all the players come in, and he walks towards us, really slowly, and he just folds his arms like this, and he looks around the group and goes, "I'm Alex Jesselinko."
Really?
And walked off.
No way, he didn't say anything.
That was it. And And then some of the team meetings we had with him were just unbelievable. You know, we're playing a side. It's Thursday night training. We're going, okay, we're in the team meeting, and he goes, you know, if you walked out to your car right now, and you're in the car park, and a tiger comes at you, what are you going to do? Right? You're going to run like hell, fight hard to save your life. And he goes, that's the sort of fight I want to see you in this weekend, that sort of stuff, you know. So he was.
We're playing Richmond. We're playing Richmond, the Tigers.
Yeah, it was great. It was pretty basic stuff, and more kick and hand, get the ball long, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So
really,
how much beer
He's been out of coaching in football for so many years, and then they brought him back.
How much beer can we drink on a Sunday morning? You know, that sort of stuff. So it was.
But you've got to remember, it was 10 years earlier that he captain coached Carlton to a premiership.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
In '79, and then left the club immediately due to some political upheaval with the president leaving, and he said if he goes on going, so off he goes to St Kilda. You might have taken his advice eventually.
Well, a lot of Carlton players went to St Kilda.
They did indeed. Yeah. But I mean, he spent a couple of years, captain coaching there too. But I mean, surely by 1989 things had changed a lot. There was a lot more around game plan and all that.
Changes quick, doesn't it, footy?
Yeah, but a lot of the people who were in control then, you still had Wes Lofts and Ian Collins and blah blah. They would have revered him when he was a player, right? And so therefore they get him back going, well, you know, how good was he back in the heyday? And it's hard to quantify how much has the game moved on, and is he going to be able to adapt, that sort of thing.
So he gets about half a season in '89, coaches for the entire year of 1990, and then they realise we're not going anywhere here. We didn't make the finals in either year, and they bring back Parkin.
Yep.
You would have seen Parkin but never played under him because he left at the end of '85. So you were playing under 19s football back then? Yeah,
I can't even recall him as a senior coach.
Right. So when he came back, he was a new type of coach for you?
Yeah, that's right.
How did you find him in '91 and '92, which were your last 2 years at Carlton?
Yeah, I was struggling with injuries, and I probably didn't have the best sort of
run at it
in a sense, and so. At times I was in the side and going okay, and then other times he'd drop me and that sort of stuff, and then I started thinking, this guy talks too much and likes to hear his own voice, and so Sheldon had gone to St Kilda.
Yes, he had.
And I had a good relationship with him.
Yes.
And so I was the one to say to Carlton, I want to leave.
Right.
Because I'm not getting the opportunities I want. And so I went to St Kilda under Bomber.
Yep.
And he was a great coach. I mean, they should never have got rid of him so quickly at St Kilda. I mean, he was very, very tactically, sound.
He got into a final series in '91, didn't he?
Yeah,
and they were very unlucky with the way the finals were structured.
I think they beat Collingwood, was it, at Waverley, maybe?
I think they lost a final against Geelong at Waverley.
I know they won one. I'm sure they won one final.
Yeah.
Big Spider Everett and those sort of people were playing back then.
I think the week after the semi-final they lost to Geelong and were out.
Yes. So but they were a very good side and a good coach. So, but again, going from Carlton to St Kilda is like, going from, Carlton to the Q Footy Club, let's say, chalk and cheese.
So was it that big of a difference?
It was, yeah. I mean, you got there, and the property steward had been there for a long time, and it was like he thought he ran the club. And so he'd try and fine you, right? Give you fines for whether you didn't hand something back or whether you were late or something, right? And it was like they tried to get all these fines so they could take it out of your contract and didn't have to pay you as much.
To
save money. Yeah. And really? And also then they also got the players in and talked about the club's finances, where they are at, and all this sort of stuff, and what we need to do to try and help. With the selling, marketing of the club. And so at Carlton you never heard about money, anything.
The last thing you want to
do. They just wanted you focused on playing.
Yeah, at Carlton, especially through 87, 88. On a Thursday night after training, you'd go into under the Hawthorn stand there, and you have these big banquets, which and John Elliott would come occasionally, and
iron sauce.
You'd eat all this beautiful food, right? And you knew you were playing Saturday, and you go, "Geez, I better not eat too much of that. And give us some food." And then occasionally, John Elliott would get up there and go, you could see Wolsey cringing, going, "I wish I didn't have to let him get up there," but John did what he wanted to.
Right, we're playing Collingwood this week.
Yeah, exactly. And then he'd either bag you, say something because you'd lost the week before.
Right.
You won't be getting that bloody beautiful food next week if you don't perform and all this sort of stuff.
If you think you're going to get this food, pig's ass, you will.
Yeah.
You never said that, apparently.
Oh, well.
And then other times you might get up and say, "You're going well, boys," all this sort of stuff, So you went to St Kilda and you might have got pizza on a Thursday night, delivered, takeaway.
It's funny. Did you play with Dean Rice?
Yes.
He says the story when he left St Kilda. Because he got injured, he left St Kilda, he was about to go to Carlton. Anyway, as he left St Kilda, they sent him a bill for his clothes and that. For his uniform and that. They sent him a bill. He said he never paid it, but they actually sent him a bill.
Unbelievable. I reckon their philosophy must have been, if we send out 100 fines, hopefully half of them get paid and half of them will probably not get paid. But
so they were like a professional club versus an amateur sort of club,
And
that's ridiculous.
That's some good players. Like
they had great players. Like Robert Harvey was up and running by then. Stuart Lowe, Tony Lockett.
They had 5 stars. Nathan Burke, Lowe, Lockett,
real stars,
Winmar, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But then
it fell away.
Then it fell away a bit, and the standards of what they set. Harvey's training his ass off and doing whatever, etc. And then other people weren't quite there, or they had the party boy mentality and drank too much at the St Kilda Social Club on Saturday.
Trevor Barker still around then?
He wasn't there when I was there, I don't think. So anyway, so after too many injuries and 6 games, Els sort of said, it's time to move on.
It was 1 year you were there,
Yeah. And I didn't have great memories of it at all, But I didn't mind, playing there. It was okay, but
because you love playing footy.
But then when Sheldon went, I thought, I'm done.
Did you actually? Because you left Carlton at the end of '92.
Yes.
And in '93 you went to St Kilda. You played under Stan Elves.
Stan Elves was coming in. I played under Sheldon.
So Sheldon was still the coach in '93, right?
Yeah.
And then Stan Elves.
Then he got the flick.
Yeah.
And then Stan Elves came on our footy trip to Gold Coast.
Right.
You
were still on the list at that stage.
Why is he coming on a footy trip, blah, blah. And then I see him, talking to you, blah, blah, for 15 minutes. Then he talked to you for 15 minutes. And I didn't get spoken to. So I knew that...
the writing's on the wall.
So he spoke to about 90% of the players, but not another 5 or 6. So I flew back to Melbourne. And then he rang me. I mean, he didn't even have the balls to, do it face to face. I thought that was really poor,
Yes.
Rang me up. I remember exactly where I was, working the IT stuff at Drummond Street, Carlton. And rings me up and, tells me. I mean,
He just says that
over a phone.
Over the phone.
We're not going to need you this year,
So
you see, there you go. See the difference? We spoke to Mark Porter recently on an interview, and he was traded to North Melbourne in exchange for Corey McKernan at the end of 2001.
Yep.
And even though there were rumours flying around at the time that there was going to be this trade involving Porter and getting McKernan to Carlton, he said, I at least respected Wayne Britton for calling me and seeing me face to face in his office.
I think that's the right way to do it.
He at least eyeballed me and told me what was happening.
Exactly, that's right.
That's what you expect, isn't it?
Yeah.
But a lot of coaches.
And I expected something more. I mean, I followed Stan Ells, his footy career, because I loved the footies in the 70s and that sort of stuff. And then
he was a premiership player with North Melbourne in '77.
He was a very good player, and so I don't hold him high regard for that, of course, So
and he coached them to a grand final, but they lost in '97, one that they probably should have won.
Yeah, no sympathy there from me.
What about when you were at St Kilda '93? You see Carlton get to the grand final. How does that feel?
I went to my wife's family. I went to my wife's family holiday house in Bowen Heads,
Yeah.
and there was a couple of mates there with me, and we had a thing where if Essendon kicked the goal, you had to scull. If Carlton kicked the goal, you had to scull. So I don't remember much about the end of the game. But
the supporters are.
Well, they
you know,
a few more goals.
At that stage, you know, you were disappointed you weren't still there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And part of it, sort of thing.
Because it's only like a year.
Yeah, that's right.
There, so.
But you know, you set your own destiny. I mean, I was the one who asked to leave, and you know, the grass isn't always greener. You know,
It's not. That's
so
very
sometimes
true,
you think it is.
Yeah.
So was there a little bit of that? I could have been out there playing for Carlton.
Yeah, of course. You know, I still thought I could be playing AFL footy.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff. But yeah.
After you left St Kilda, was there any at any other club approach you, or did you talk to anyone?
No, I spoke to one or two clubs, but you know, they were concerned. They were concerned about my injury history. You know, you know, resilience of the body, that sort of stuff.
Could you tell that you were? Do you think you were cooked at that stage, or do you think you were still capable of getting back at AFL level?
I mean, I believed I could, and I probably had lots of dreams that I was still playing. You know, like I'd wake up thinking I'm still playing.
I was 26.
26. But you know, I sort of, again, I don't try and look back too much and just go, what am I going to do now? And so I went and coached Phillip Island and played down there, but thinking, I still could be playing, you know, AFL football. But yeah, I mean, I was never super quick, but I had awesome endurance.
Yes.
So for me to be at my best, I had to be fit. And so when I started having this injury or that injury, and your body starts to, you know. So, I mean, I trained really hard when I was a young kid, and I'd go down to Carlton and finish, you know, first or second in the time trials with Adrian Gleeson or Craig Bradley, that sort of stuff.
That's great.
So for someone who's 6'3", being able to run like that,
big boy to keep on with Bradley,
that's what he means by endurance.
And so for that was a weapon, you know. Yep. As soon as I started having a few injuries and that backed off a bit, I couldn't run at my high speed for as long in games.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if I was a bit slow, I could manage position-wise what I could do to the opposition. And then as I wore them out, their speed dropped before mine did.
Your stage,
you know? But then my question is to myself, you know, no, you don't dwell on it too much, but if I didn't push myself that hard when I was young, I may not have made it. Right, and I may not have made it and been successful by winning, you know, best first year player or playing the premiership.
Yeah,
correct.
But if I hadn't pushed myself that hard, maybe I wouldn't have had as many injuries and I would have had a longer career. But you know,
you don't know.
I don't know. So therefore, you go, well, you know, I'm glad I pushed myself hard
100%.
to get recognised and to, you know.
And there would have been no guarantees you necessarily would have got picked for the A.
And I don't think
for the seniors by 95. You know, by the time we won one.
You're not the type that's not going to push yourself.
That's right.
You're going to go hard.
Go hard, and then eventually go home.
You're in the present. There's no
go home. We don't want you anymore.
That's it. At least
you're in the present. You push yourself as hard as you possibly can, because the future there's nothing guaranteed.
I remember '86 pre-season, like '86 going into '87. So the '87 pre-season.
Yeah.
You know, people like Buckley and that, you know, trying to whack you because he was old and I'm running around being a lunatic at training and going, mate, slow down, will you? Slow down. If you don't slow down, I'm going to whack you. And you thought, what he's talking about, and then he whack you.
That's true. That's it.
Geez, you had played with some real characters back
then. Unbelievable, mate.
Who were your closest mates playing for Carlton?
Probably Mill Hanna, because he was in East Brunswick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he was another one that was unlucky to miss out on the '87.
Well, as you were saying before, was I concerned about my? Well, he did his knee in '86. I mean, he was flying because he was a year older than me. But I remember I was playing under-19s and he played his first game at Waverley, and he was flying, mate. He was. I mean, he was Till Carp. He was under-19 star. Then he was this. He was a freak, right? I looked up to him going, wow, what a player. And then he did his knee. And as you say, in 87,
he came back.
He couldn't get back in the senior side.
Get back in.
So when you say, was I worried about losing my spot? I didn't even think about what was happening with him and could he get back in and all this sort of thing, you know.
We spoke to him and he said, look, I wasn't that worried about missing out on 87 because I thought, the way this team's going, we're going to have another 5 in a row.
He was the same, yeah.
But then he didn't get to play in one until 95, 8 years later.
Were you really good mates with him?
Yeah.
He was Brunswick, wasn't he?
East Brunswick.
That's right.
You were good mates with him. So
and we'd go round to his place on a Sunday again.
And have a feed.
So after training on a Sunday morning,
have some real food.
Have some Lebanese food, and he'd take 4 or 5 of us back, Steve DeRuy, Jamie Dunlop, etc. And we'd go back there, and his mum's sister lived there, so his auntie, and she wasn't married, I don't think. And basically the dad would be in his white singlet.
Yep.
Right, and his pyjama pants still on.
That's it. That's perfect.
And drinking the arak.
Yeah, right? the arak.
And then they'd be at the back, the mum and the wife, the mum and the sister, cooking chicken on the barbecue outside, right, the coals and all this, and they'd bring all this food in until we couldn't eat anymore. We were like rolling around on the floor. And this happened a lot of Sundays, you know.
At least you could digest before Tuesday training.
Yeah.
That's sick, man.
Yeah, and then another story about Mill, he goes, I don't know whether it was 88, 87, 88, 89, whatever, but he tells a story and he remembers it clearly because he was a freak, right?
Yeah.
And he was fast, agile, strong, all this.
He had the body, everything.
And I know he said to, Cole Kinnear said to him, look, and they used to call him Tiger, look, Tiger, look, he goes, he goes, see, Beezer? He goes, you're just as quick as him. You're just as strong as him, you know? He goes, I can't believe why you just can't get back in the side and this sort of stuff, you know? He's using me as an example for Mill. And I'm going, far out.
Real.
Yeah.
I was going to say, with
with
Mill, so your best mate, did you ever tell him, seriously, shave your head, mate? Seriously.
Well, that's why he did shave his head.
Eventually you kept telling him?
Yeah, well, me and 1 or 2 others.
Because he kept holding on to that little bit.
Yeah, even when we went to London in 87, I think.
That's right, because he still had the hair.
He still had the hair, and we'd go, mate, look, I know those 14 hairs.
You're trying to hold on to.
You've got a name for each one of them, you know. You caress them, all this sort of stuff. I said, I think you're going to pull more chicks if you shave your head, mate. You know, and so
Rocco's learnt that.
I learned that real quick, man. I was never going to do the Kevin Bartlett.
Instead of having tufts or the comb over. So once he shaved it, he never looked back, mate.
Nah, man.
The women loved him after that.
And even Rex Hunt gave him the nickname the Cranium.
Yeah, and he grew so much more confidence. Not so much on the footy field, but with the women. You know,
he
backed himself. Before that, he was a bit,
Well, before
a bit shy, he was. A bit shy.
Before Kuda came, because then Kuda came along and he was like the beast, with the body and that. Man, Mill was a beast. Man.
Yeah, but that only happened when he did his knee. So he had a reasonable rig, but the difference between that and those 9-10 months, he worked his ass off in the gym.
He did. And he came back like he was a star.
He did build up his upper body.
He had a good rig.
I used to back when you started playing under 19s and then reserves. I was going along to the footy early to the Princes Park games and getting in at 11 o'clock when the gates open.
You got to get the spot.
I watched you in 86, but also before that, Mill was playing reserves in like 84 and 85, and he was blitzing.
He was good.
And when he played his first game in 86, we were all looking forward to it because even though we'd recruited all these interstate guns like Kernahan, Bradley, Motley, Dorotich, etc., he still did well enough to earn his first game in 86 when all of those recruits had also played their first games for Carlton.
Yeah.
And it was a tragedy that he did his knee, but
how
good was it watching the reserves and the up and comers?
Yeah.
And you get value for money. You pay your $10, go in, and you can make a day of it. You know, you'd leave home at 10, get there 11, gates open, watch the reserves, see all these up and coming players. Yeah. You know, and now it's like, you pay so much for food, so much for this, and you go in
and you watch Captain Carlton doing it.
Yeah, you go in and you got all these gimmicks and crap. You got to play. They got to play Sweet Caroline between at certain grounds around Australia. I mean, people want to see the next crop coming up, or even AFLW, right? Yeah. Put that on beforehand. But seriously,
I don't think people understand the younger generation understand, like going to Princess Park, going early, making a day of it.
We
like
used to see
Princess
the
Park
same
felt
people.
like home, and I'm sure it felt like
Yes.
home to you, man. Like it's different footy
felt
now.
like
We
home.
go to footy, I still love it. Hasn't got that feeling anymore, you know.
Yeah, it was like a 5 or 6 hour event, right? Whereas now it's like
In and out.
In and out.
People are leaving like 15 minutes early so they beat the traffic.
Back in those days, I used to get on a tram at 9:30
Yeah.
in Sydney Road because I lived in Coburg, and arrive at the ground at 10 o'clock. Stay there for an hour. We'd meet the same people at every home match. We're all lining up there behind the gates and talking and chatting and whatever for an hour. And then at 11 o'clock, they'd open the gates and boom.
and the bloke
In
selling
we'd go.
his peanuts, mate.
Oh, the peanut
the big
Well,
fat guy.
back in those days,
Peanuts. He was everywhere.
Yeah.
I reckon he had there was triplets, right? Because he was at the VFA on a Sunday. He was
That's it.
at the Whitten Oval. He was at Carlton. He was at selling his peanuts in the white bags
it.
or whatever.
That's it.
Peanuts. It was
people would
crazy.
you
throw
what,
their coins at
he
him and
owns
he'd
about-
throw the peanuts at him. Yeah.
He bought about bloody 10 houses with those peanuts, I reckon, because he was everywhere selling those, and he could hit you. Like,
They were great days. Do you know back in those days at Princess Park there was only the one seat? Do you remember?
Yeah.
One
Around the
continuous
boundary.
seat around the boundary, and the rest was all standing room.
And Barb would have the one next to the
Oh,
race.
Barb.
Barb and all the
She
cohort, you know. So
And the
Smarts.
Bluebirds were
they
were the big star attraction back in the early
Yeah,
80s.
mate, they were the best, mate.
They
As a
were
kid, mate, as a kid, mate. As a kid,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
listen to.
Absolutely.
it was like watching Wonder Woman in her outfit.
Now let's put some vision up of the Bluebirds, shall we?
Mate, I'm going to put
Can
it
we
up.
put some vision up?
I've got my own personal bloody videos of the Bluebirds, mate. Mate, at the time I was a kid, mate, they were the best, mate. I still say my best ever was when did Helen run out? What year?
Helen D'Amico,
Yeah.
1982 grand final.
Oh, so the 1982 is still one of my favourite
Finals.
ever grand finals.
Because of that.
Well, 12 years old, what do you think?
I was 14.
12 years old, watching the footy and then you see that, gee.
I was 14. I'd reached puberty.
It
He
was the
hadn't
best,
yet.
mate. It was the best.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
They were good to look at.
But anyway,
Anyway.
I'm going to get now. Everyone's going to want to know about this. So, 87, you win the grand final.
Yep.
And then they decide to have a match over in England.
Exhibition game.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
Big
can't have an
go.
interview with you without talking about that.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. How that comes about. You go over there. You guys aren't
It's a bit of a
taking it
junket.
serious, aren't you?
It's a bit of a junket, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think half the team was pretty much, intoxicated before they went out onto the ground.
More than likely.
Were you one of them?
I can't remember.
You had a good time anyway, yeah. So you get out there.
Apparently a couple of them weren't meant to play and they ended up getting the call up. I think Jimmy Buckley might have
Right,
been
quite
one of
possibly. He was
last
probably
night.
over there with Foster's as a marketing thing, and then ended up playing. Possibly.
Yeah, I don't
you
think
know.
Wolsey was too happy to be there.
Yeah, but what happened? Right, we
How long after the grand final was that?
2 weeks, 10
2
days,
weeks, that's
something
all.
like that.
Yeah.
Right. We
been
went there. We went there. We were celebrating. Blah blah. You referred back to North Melbourne versus Carlton the last round of the year,
Yes.
and how it affected the five.
Yes.
North went out in straight sets, right? So John Kennedy Senior was their coach,
Yep.
and so I understand that what happened was that he said to a lot of the players before the game, your spot on our list is up for grabs. If you don't perform, so they were fired up, right?
Yeah.
We were there, and the winning side then went on to. Everyone went on to Canada, regardless, to play in another game because Hawthorn were playing someone in Collingwood in Los Angeles,
Yes.
and then two winners would play in Vancouver or Toronto or whatever.
They're all just junkets
but the other
at the
people
end.
went anyway. So if you lost,
So
you still went, right? So
He didn't play.
he didn't play. Whereas
And
the others,
that
had to
didn't bother anybody.
the others
anyway,
had to
did
play,
it?
so you'd prefer to lose, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
But in the
yeah.
end, we went out there, and so Reece Jones was playing on Donald McDonald, right?
Yeah.
And they're both as crazy as each other and all that sort of stuff. And so Donald McDonald starts to,
Yeah,
shape
there's a little bit of fighting.
bit of fisticuffs with Reece, and Reece goes, well, I'm not going to,
Yeah.
So he goes back at him, and then Wolsey sees it and goes, look, this is ridiculous. Beezy, you go play on Reece Jones, on Donald McDonald. And then Donald McDonald continues, right? He swings at me, blah, blah. So I shape up to him, And then next thing I know, I'm on the ground, or I don't know that, I'm in the rooms, or wake up in the rooms. They said,
actually got knocked out, didn't you?
Yeah, and they said, where are you? And I said, the MCG,
And you're at the Oval in London.
I was at the Oval. So after that, watching the rest of the game, once I came to, 15 minutes later, Wolsey had thrown his walkie-talkie at Kangy Kennedy, going,
Yeah, he almost got it.
That's not on, mate, that's not on. He goes, you keep that little prick on the ground, and, we're going to sort him out.
Alistair Clarkson was hiding behind goalposts.
He was running behind the goal umpire. He was all stuff was going on, and I saw him in the lift. Three of us got on the lift, and we were going up, and
This is back at the hotel.
The door's open, and he came out, and his head was like a pumpkin, and that sort of stuff. So for years,
Jono got stuck into him.
Yeah, no, they all did, mate.
Yeah, Bear comes.
Bear was the first one. Jono,
was the first one.
and then they kept chasing him, and Bucks and Reece were trying to, serve it up to him. So
well, Wolsey said that bloke's not to get off the ground without.
That's
being
right.
hurt.
Exactly. Yeah. So then,
like that, it was.
I think he got 6 or 8 weeks. I mean,
I think he only got 4.
He got 4.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. These days, there would have been.
And they carried me off on a stretcher, and I had blood, coming out.
It wasn't broken, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't broken.
I wasn't
broken because my wisdom teeth were now out and all this sort of stuff. So everyone thinks I broke it there, but I broke it at Waverley versus Hawthorn and Brereton, and that time it wasn't broken. Okay, but people say after that your career was never the same. You weren't
That's
the same.
why it was only 4 weeks and not 6, because he didn't break it.
Your career wasn't the same. You weren't the same footballer, all this sort of stuff, I mean, people say you went down like a bag of shit, and I say, well, you turn around and I'll king hit you, and we'll see how you go down.
Exactly right.
For 30,
couldn't see it coming.
But for 30 years, someone would go, I'd get a tradesperson over, I'd see someone, and they go, I recognise you. Did you play footy? And go, yeah, I played Carlton. What's your name? Ian Aitken. Oh yeah, you were the bloke who got king hit by Clarkson. That's what they say. They don't say anything about
the premiership
and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. So therefore, I had a lot of animosity towards him. And if he had have just gone off and become an accountant or a carpenter or something, but because he got into the AFL and he was at Port Adelaide, and then they appointed him coach, and I'm thinking, fucking prick gets the coach there, and then he has success.
Real
success.
4 premierships,
and which each time I was hoping I was going to lose, and because of him I disliked Hawthorn and all this sort of stuff. And I was still coaching, locally or at Xavier College or here or there. And he tells me this later that he'd heard that through people that we knew mutually that Beezer's he still holds a lot of animosity. Because when you ask him why didn't he try and reach out or do this and that, he goes, well, I knew you didn't want me to, right? So that was probably 3 or 4 years ago. I was talking to a good mate of mine, Stephen Kerr, the Kerr family, who were a big part of the club. We played under-19s together at Carlton. Okay, and so we sort of stayed mates, and so I was talking to him, and he goes, look, I reckon you should try and do something about him, if it's bugging you still and all this sort of stuff. So he knew Justin Reeves from Hawthorn, right? And so we set up a meeting. So it was Justin Reeves, Clarko, me, and Stephen Kerr.
So you each had your own consigliere, as we say in The Godfather.
Just in case something, something he said this or you said this.
You both had your own witnesses.
So I mean, he was 18 at the time. I was 20. His brother died in a car accident. He'd had a sort of rougher upbringing up at Swan Hill Way, Conniva, wherever it was. So we spoke for an hour, and blah blah, and we left. And Stephen Kerr goes, "How do you feel about that?" I'm saying, "I'm just still not sure," and all this sort of stuff. So then I spoke to him on the phone, and we and I said, I put to him, "Look, I do footy camps, I do this, I do that." I said, I'd like you to come and talk to the players and the young kids, etc., and do these sort of things. So because he was sincere with that, he came to the Q Footy Club, spoke to a group of young people. He came to a camp at Mornington, that I'm running for like 24 young kids. I think Nick Dacos was there, and Sam Darcy, Finlay McRae.
You coached Nick Dacos?
I coached him at Q Rovers for 2 years, and plus he came on my...
Couldn't have got him to Carlton, could you?
He was a Carlton supporter.
He was a Carlton supporter.
He came on my camp to Mornington, and they're all there going, who's... I said, there's an current AFL coach coming to speak, and they're going, well, who could it be? And I'm not telling them. And they're going through this. Is it Buckley? Is it this person, this person? And they're going, it couldn't be Clarkson. No way it would be Clarkson, blah, blah. And then Clarkson turns up, and we speak about, you know, reconciliation. We talk about, I suppose, looking after your mates. Like Brett Ratton's son had died in a car accident, you know, and because he had a bad injury. He was a very good footballer, had a bad injury, probably got, you know, down on himself because he had the injury, hung around with the wrong people, and then that sort of happened. So we had this message to them, and they all went home going to their parents. That's probably, you know, was really resonated with me and stuck in my mind. Yeah. So then he spoke at the Q business lunch 2 years ago. You know, because I coach a Q footy club and we have a business lunch. So he came to that with 200 people or so, and we spoke. And so in the end, like, I'm a sort of revengeful, vindictive person. But for me, it's been really therapeutic for me. It's lifted this animosity and sort of
black clouds.
And freed me up, you know. So I can't believe I've done it. And now I've done it. I'm really happy I did do it.
Good on you.
And you're a better person.
I'm glad to hear that.
No, it's good to hear.
But you know what's really good about that story is that you've found a way to make that happen, and at the same time help all of the young kids that you're coaching.
Yes.
To me, that's the really nice side of that story.
Yes.
Is that other young players have benefited from not just your coaching, but then you getting Alistair Clarkson. Did you get asked about that at the time that he came and spoke to them? Did anyone ask you two, have you two made up since the 1987?
We went through it all. It was like, you know, 45 minutes in the change rooms at Mornington.
So it wasn't like the elephant in the room was just no one spoke about. So they did.
We spoke about it. We raised it, or they raised it, whatever, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And if you can help one or two people, if it impacts one or two people and you can help them, you know, then that's the most important thing. You know.
Really
so it was good for me, but it was also, you know, good for
I think it was good
the
for
young
him,
people to hear.
And also for Clarkson too.
I reckon it would have been just as therapeutic for him too. He knew that he did the wrong thing.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you said, and because then you're remembered for that one incident in a way, yeah? And I spoken to Wayne Harms, and he, great career, probably pound for pound, people say one of the best footballers, and he kind of hates that he's remembered for that one incident too, which was a good one, but still, but
knocking the ball in from the fourth row.
But it's funny how you said, like, you won premiership, you play for Carlton, and then the one thing they remember.
Everyone asked him about it, he's sick of it.
The one thing they remember is that, so you would have this hatred going through your life. So it's good that it all worked out.
Mind you, if it wasn't for that, who knows, he might not have even got the Norm Smith medal.
Who's that?
Harmsy.
Oh, Harmsy, yeah.
You know, like, it makes you, but it also, you know, there's another side to it, isn't there? There's the...
Well, he reckons it turned him into a secluse? Is it he just doesn't...
A recluse.
I'm sure, but he got a few sportsman's nights out of it.
No, he definitely got a few sportsman's nights out of it.
I bet you could have got a few sportsman's nights.
I reckon he sold a few frames for it too, so no, he did all right. So that's good, so.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a great story of a young kid who grew up in the northern suburbs in Carlton territory, even though he didn't barrack for Carlton, who ended up at the club that he pretty much is down the road from. And you did so well in those years, especially those early years where you were, basically only played 16 games in your first year, and your 16th game was a premiership. How good's that, eh?
You've got to have a lot of fortune, and I was fortunate enough to play in a side that had some stars, and I think I'd rather play 66 games and play in that one premiership than play 200 games.
And nothing.
I've asked this question of people, and people say, but no one's actually played. I might ask my mates, but when you ask actually a premiership player, would you rather play, let's even put it down to like 15 or 20 games and one premiership, or 300 games like a Kate Simpson?
Well, that then becomes a tougher question,
it does, doesn't it? Because you still love playing
300 games, you meet so many more people through the club, connection, and you get a lot to money.
You play for 18 years.
So there's that.
Forget about the money.
So let's say it's 150 games. All right, and so you might have a 8-year career. Or
and no finals.
And no finals. Right? Or so would you rather be Robbie Flower?
Well, you know what?
Would you rather be Robbie Flower?
Right. I've answered this
Robbie
question.
Flower,
or someone who's played in 2 flags in 7 years,
No, you take the two flags in 7 years because that's still a fair
You're talking about one flag in only 15 games.
Yeah. I'm talking about one flag in one season, or like 18 seasons or 15 seasons of football. I've always said I'd rather play. I know winning the flag is the ultimate, but like I've played sport and you coach and that, going in, week out with your mates playing is like, you can't beat that, mate. Like, you can't beat that. I know the ultimate success is there, but anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got none of them.
It's a tough question.
It's a tough call,
And I'm not sure there's the right answer.
Well, in today's team, I mean, we're talking now on the brink of the finals of 2023. Patrick Cripps, Sam Doherty, both played over 150 games and never played in the final yet. Now they're about to.
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee of a grand final or a premiership.
No. And then look, as they say, good. I think it was Cole Kinnear. Good players play well at the G, and good players play well in finals.
Yep.
So you can make your reputation 100%. Based on big games,
100%.
and big games are normally Anzac Day, whatever. But finals, you
talk about like the dominator.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, David Parkin says that Wayne Johnson is the best finals player he's ever seen.
Yeah.
Bar
He
none.
just lifted that next level.
Always fired up for the big finals.
Yep.
Now, quickly, I want to end on this. You watch the Blues now?
As much as possible.
All right, so how are we going? We're coming up to a final series. We're first time in 10 years. And this is another thing. I've never seen a season where you can be... It's two halves of a season.
Get abused by your own supporters, right, after the Essendon game.
And then all of a sudden, like they've turned it around, and who knows, like we won't know for years what turned it around, or like mentally. I always thought they had a list, they had a good list.
Yep.
But so this season, anyway, how are they going, and can they do it from like fifth? Could they do it? Like, is there?
Well, I mean, with the week bye these days, which is unfair, for the teams who finish in the top four. Anyone can win it from anywhere now, right? And I'm not sure eighth will win it and this sort of stuff, but I think Carlton, if things go their way, can certainly win it. They've got
one of the teams there.
They've got the momentum.
Yeah.
They've got the belief. They've
got the best player in the competition.
Curnow. So they're as much chance as anyone. I think so. Because of the bye.
Would you rather play every week at the finals? Do you think it's better to play every week?
Play every week, or have the bye after prelims, before the granny.
Right.
So therefore, both teams come up fully fit. If you got concussed in a prelim, you can play 2 weeks later, right?
So play a prelim.
The two prelims, and
then have a break, and then play a grand final.
In 2021, when they played the series in Perth because of COVID, they did the prelims, and then they had that week off the following week, and then they played the grand final the week after. So any players that were concussed could play.
Whereas now they get the weeks off.
And the season finishes, and you go, "What are we doing this weekend?" Well, there's no footy. Yeah. You've got to wait 2 weeks to the, that's probably the best week of the finals, because you get 4 quality games.
Yes.
Right? And then after that, you get 2 games, then 2 more prelims.
And then the grand final.
And then the grand final. They need to change it. They really do, you know. And as for the public holiday before, I mean, just don't start me on that rubbish,
Oh, the public holiday.
I'm with you.
Ridiculous, mate.
Well, I work for.
So you want to get paid?
He gets his triple time.
Yeah, triple time. That's right.
Come on, mate. Double time.
Sorry, 4 times. Very soon it'll be 4 times.
Nothing like people.
We're the only country that horse race they have a public holiday, and not even for the grand final. For the parade.
Well, we're lucky the Matildas didn't win the grand final, win the final of the World Cup, because there would have been another.
Albanese would have been on that bandwagon going, we're going to have a public holiday, all this sort of stuff,
Anyway, so now you've become a really seasoned coach. I mean, you've had far more years coaching than playing.
30 years coaching.
Now, tell us some of the achievements you've had. I think you had 3 premierships there.
Yes, Strathmore first. Yes. Playing coach in a grand final, so that was my junior club.
Fantastic.
As we spoke about. So going back and playing with some of those guys that I'd played juniors with, that was great. Doing that, because it's not easy being a playing coach.
No.
And then I was coaching junior footy, so Dan Hanbury's side, a couple of flags. Then I coached my son's side to a flag. So 1 year in 2013, I coached the Q under 18 team, the Q senior team, and my son's under 14 team for Q Rovers. And getting to August, I'm thinking we're a chance here for all three of them.
Wow.
And I thought, which one would I prefer to win out of the three? And then which one would the second be one I want? But I won all three. So I won 3 grand finals in within a month, because my son's was 3 weeks early or something. And then I coached the under 18s on the Sunday morning, and then the seniors in the afternoon.
That's the felt like no one can touch me.
And then in 2012, 14, we won another one. So we went up a grade. And 2015, we won another one. And there's only like Luke Beveridge at St Bede's and myself and one other person, I think back in the 50s, who have won 3 successive flags in the VAFA going up grades.
Oh,
you know,
so up.
Because the leap between grades is, can be quite big. And so having that momentum, not only going up and being okay, but winning the flag. And then I coached under 19 flag in the 2019 with Q again. So I've coached 5 flags there. I've coached numerous school teams and flags for that sort of stuff and all that. Probably coached, 15 blokes playing AFL footy now. Fantastic. And now probably 10 to 12.
Including Nick Dacos.
Yeah, including Nick Dacos. And
Any other big names that you've coached?
Oh, Sam Darcy's going to be a superstar. So
Luke Darcy's son?
Yeah. And there's 2 others coming through younger than that, but they're going to be just as good.
Any coming through for the Blues?
Yeah, no, anyone coming through for the Blues?
Not that I'm involved with, but then I do female stuff. So I've probably coached. I ran a Jim Steins program for a couple of years.
Yeah, okay.
Fast tracking female development, and there's probably 15 girls playing AFLW now through that sort of stuff. So I do a lot of private coaching, and anywhere from sort of 10-year-old to senior players, and try and just refine what they're doing, or get them to improve as quick as they can so they can.
Well, you mentioned Luke Beveridge. Now, he's gone on to become an AFL coach and a premiership coach in 2016 with the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Why not Ian Aitken? Why have you never been
I went back to
involved at AFL level?
I went back to Northern Blues, and had 2 years there, which was good fun and all that sort of stuff. But Brendan Bolton was coaching the seniors.
Well, who was coaching the Northern Blues then? Was that
Josh Fraser?
Josh Fraser.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
But Bolton was coaching the seniors, Josh Fraser, and then I was coaching the development team.
Right.
And I can't say
a challenging time.
I can't say Brendan Bolton was the best person I've been involved with, or even his game plan. The old bamboo shoots rubbish. That sort of stuff.
We kept hearing that.
The green shoots.
All that sort of stuff. Blue skies. All those. That jargon, that sort of stuff. So I've had a really fun, successful coaching career.
My word, you have.
I've just resigned from the Q Footy Club.
Right. So now you're available to coach in the Carlton Football Club?
After 11 seasons there, and
you could have had a chance halfway through the year, but I reckon bosses.
You'd have to be in the Hall of Fame at the Q Football Club after that sort of successful run.
I think they very happy, because they were a struggling club when I got there.
Yeah.
Down in D3 in the amateurs, and we turned it around.
You've got them to go up another level.
Up and up. So, and now we're a club that had 2 men's teams. Now we've got 3 men's teams and 3 women's teams. So the seniors are on top. My daughter's playing in that team. That sort of stuff.
Right.
So it's and it's close to where I live, so it's easy. So I've coached so many people. I think we're looking at it. I've coached 197 different people throughout my time at Q Footy Club, which is
unbelievable.
Impacting a lot of different people,
Dare I say, you get far more satisfaction out of coaching and coaching premierships than you did out of playing in one, or would you say it's just different?
Yeah, it's different, because if you're playing in one, you're one of 20. If you're the coach, you're the man. Or woman, but you're the person who. Yeah. So if you lose, you feel like it's all on you. Yeah. Like, what could I have done differently? Whereas if you're one player, you got other 19 players to hide amongst to go. Maybe it was his fault or his fault, his fault.
I agree.
But so if you win one, you feel like.
So did you turn up to Q Football Club and just cross your arms and say, I'm Ian Aitken?
No, I said to him, look, in 2 years I'll get you into a final.
Yep.
And in 3 or 4 years we'll win one. win.
you did.
And we did, yeah. So the second year we played finals.
Fantastic.
And the third year we won it. So, yeah, and I suppose when I get there, my record of winning grand finals, I think I've lost one maybe, coached probably 12 juniors and 7 or 8 seniors. And I think I've only lost, once I got to the big dance, just lost the one.
Just the one. Now, how did that feel, losing the one grand final that year compared to all the others?
Actually, 2, sorry. Phillip Island when I went there. It's shocking, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, it's...
Does that really almost become more memorable than some of the ones you've actually won?
You don't want to remember it.
I know, but does
yeah.
that sort of stick in your gut a bit?
It sticks in your gut going, what if, and this sort of stuff.
But you've won that many more.
But then you just go, just, as again, don't look in the rear vision mirror, just move on, and let's
worry about the next one.
What can we do next year? You know?
Let's worry about what we can control.
That's right.
That's
So,
well, Ian, you played 61 sensational games for Carlton. I think you only played the 5 for St Kilda.
yeah, that's it. There you go.
66,
And I think you might have kicked
10 goals.
10 goals all at Carlton.
Right.
No, you did 10 goals.
But thanks for he's my statistician. And mate, you were a very memorable player in that sensational 1987 premiership team. And congratulations on your career, both as a player and, of course, subsequent to that as a coach.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us on
Good
the
on you,
Jumper
mate.
Punch. It's
Well
great
done.
to see you again. And
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for having me
after all
on.
those
man.
accolades and all of that list of success that you've had, now you can put another thing at the top of your resume.
Yeah,
That's
you're
right.
a legend of the jumper punch.
Exactly. And all the Carlton supporters, hope they win it for us this year.
Let's hope
Perfect.
so.
That's the way. Go.
Let's give them a big go, Blues. Ready?
Ready.
3, 2, 1.
Go
Till
Blues!
I'm dead and buried deep within a cemetery, I will fight, never weary, I wanna be legendary. Till I'm dead and buried deep within a cemetery, I will fight, never weary, I wanna be legendary. I wanna be legendary. Coming out of the gate, I'll be last place, that's alright. I don't work at a fast pace, I'm a steady horse creeping up, straight passing. And once I pass you, no one's getting past me. I've seen people hit walls and they stop there. I don't get that mind, man, it sounds scared. Good thing